The 2020 recession. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from Yahoo Finance discussing the 2020 recession and telling us everything we need to know. I thought that'd be quite interesting to see. Because you've got to remember, everyone, this is the first recession Australia has had in 28 years, and the majority of the workforce have got no idea what a recession is like. They've got no living experience to it. But through all these other articles and things and statistics that we're seeing, like the growth in jobless families up to 1.5 million, I suspect that you're going to have a K-shaped recovery at the moment. Or we're going to have a two-speed economy. It's going to grow even more. It really seems like it. It really does. So, it's been a tough year for economies worldwide as the pandemic continues to wreak havoc, causing businesses to shut down, mass unemployment, spending to drop, and our economic financials to deteriorate. Here is everything you need to know about the recession, what it will look like, and how long it'll last. Well, they're going to tell us how long the recession will last. One thing I want to bring to your attention, this is from Creditor Watch. This is just the number of days that payments are overdue, and this is my new favorite chart at the moment because you can see in the red how the days are increasing for a lot of sectors while it's going down for some. Some are over 90 days past due, guys. That's pretty long. So what is a recession? A recession is generally characterized as a decline in economic activity, which then results in businesses and individuals spending less money. And that's the velocity of money, just the flow of money through the economy. And that's really tanked. People in Australia, our saving rate is over 19%, which is just crazy. It's unheard of. It's good in a way. It's encouraging. But it still is unheard of. A recession in Australia is defined by a contraction in economic growth over 2 consecutive quarters. Some economists also consider a recession to be when stagnant economic growth lasts over 12 months, or there is a 1% increase in the unemployment rate. Is Australia in a recession? In short, yes. In early September, the ABS figures showed that our GDP actually shrank by 7% over the June quarter. That represents the biggest drop in GDP since records began in '59 and is also the second consecutive quarterly contraction. This is the worst economic growth in 61 years and follows a 0.3% decline in GDP across the March quarter. So when did the recession start? Frydenberg flagged an impending recession back in June this year after the economy went backwards by 0.3% in the March quarter, thanks to the impact of last year's bushfire season combined with the pandemic. At the time, the 0.3% loss in GDP, given the Australian economy grew only 1.4% of the previous 12 months, was Australia's weakest economic performance since the GFC. And one thing that we need to remember is since the GFC, everyone, our GDP growth on a per capita basis has been getting lower and below trend. Frydenberg said the contraction in Australia was less severe than many other countries, but the economic shock associated with the pandemic would cause difficult days ahead. Sure enough, as expected, the figures deteriorated further over the June quarter, resulting in a 7% drop in GDP, and an official recession was declared in early September. Today's devastating numbers confirm what every Australian knows, that the pandemic has wreaked havoc on our economy and our lives like nothing we have ever experienced before, Frydenberg said at the time. So why the recession is like any other? We know that Australia's economic figures are stunningly bad, as is the case in the majority of economies worldwide. We're still better by comparison, everyone. That's the one advantage we have. We're doing better by comparison. The dire GDP results, combined with poor growth forecasts and unstable unemployment figures, are only comparable to the previous worst quarter performance back in June '74, when the nation was hit by the first global oil shock. But while many experts compare the coronavirus to the GFC, or worse, this recession is unlike any other in Australian history because the steep economic decline has been caused by a health crisis, and as such, recovery is unpredictable. Well, it's been caused by the government interventions in the economy. It's been caused by the lockdowns as an attempt to deal with this health crisis. It hasn't been caused by the health crisis directly. We need to make sure that the narrative stays correct. because they're framing it as that this is the cause of the health crisis or the economic crisis. It's not. It's not. It's the way that they're trying to deal with it. That's what's causing this. So will the recession be worse than 2008? Yes. The World Trade Organization Director General Robert Azevedo said in March this year that projections show the economic downturn and job losses caused by the pandemic would be worse than the 2008 recession. The pandemic will inevitably have an enormous impact on the economy, he said. Recent projections predict an economic downturn and job losses that are worse than the GFC a dozen years ago. For Australia, the recession will certainly be worse than 2008, given our economy all but escaped any extreme effects felt by the GFC. So what will the recession look like? Businesses will continue to fall as they're unable to withstand the financial ruin facing them as a result of the pandemic. And we saw that in earlier videos today, where the number of insolvencies are going on the rise, where zombie businesses are starting to fall. And if we can have a look here, I'll bring this up. You can see here, everyone, business defaults are up 23% in September. Administrations are up 11% as well. It's all getting tougher. That we'll continue to see job losses. Well, yeah, job losses, unemployment is at 6.9%. I need to get the updated graph. Job ads are still, well, quite low. And jobless families is up to 1.5 million. The proportion of those that have children, particularly in the formative years, that's the most concerning, because that can lead to intergenerational, multi-generational poverty. If you've got no one to role model on as a kid, how are you going to know what work is? Paying rent, phone, internet, utility bills, and even a mortgage will become more of a struggle, and so bills will go unpaid. With less income, household spending will drop further. And then the vicious cycle continues. Consumers who are less willing to spend means more and more businesses will struggle, and it goes on. And of course, the property market suddenly finds fewer buyers, meaning house values drop. And, well, see, this is a funny thing. We're not seeing the impact of property really take a big hit because there's so much stimulus. They're chucking money at it. We've seen other examples where landlords are kicking out renters to sell either vacant property or they want to move in themselves. So there's a shortage of rental properties. Sunshine Coast, it's under 0.5. It's crazy in some areas. Global stock markets have also been volatile for the last few weeks, and investors saw several days where hundreds of billions of dollars were wiped off every time. We don't seem to have reached bottom yet. While Australia's economy wasn't in the strongest standing to begin with, the reason behind most business closures are circumstantial and specific to the virus. Well, no, they're specific to the lockdowns that were enforced to deal with it. The Morrison government has so far announced 2 stimulus packages totaling $83.6 billion to cushion the economic blow on individuals and businesses impacted by the stringent restrictions and implemented to curb further spending of the virus and aid our economic recovery. The government will spend a combined $22.9 billion on income safety nets of $550 per fortnight for those who have lost their jobs, sole traders and casuals, and a $750 one-off supplement for those on certain welfare, pension and concession payments. Australia's bank have thrown a $100 billion lifeline, which will pause mortgage repayments until next year for Aussies who've fallen into financial hardship as a result of the pandemic. Australia's economic recovery is now largely in the government's hands, and it will be critically important that the government minimises the economic fallout, Kucoin said. I mean, this is the interventionist strategy. You've got to remember that all the money the government is giving out will have an inflationary effect, and according to the Cantillon effect as well, it will create bubbles. And we're starting to see that happening. Well, we've seen that happening in property ever since the first homeowners grant were introduced with the GST. And now we're obsessed with property. So it does this by pumping money into the economy, making it easy to get social security payments so people can survive. It is why policies are needed to see that the economy as strong as possible to reduce human cost of high unemployment. It's just a matter of waiting for the virus to come and go. So how long will the recession last? According to many leading economists, the September quarter could show a growth of Australia's economy, even despite the second wave lockdown in Victoria. Economist Peter Switzer is just one of many who expect the September quarter figures to show a full recovery. The June quarter is made up of April, May, June. The first 2 months were terrible, but JobKeeper came in and improved the positivity, and that's why some people think the number might be 5% down rather than 7%, he told Sky News. And then we roll into the September quarter, where some economists say could be positive until the Victorian lockdown, and then of course this is causing problems with going forward. I think that September will be a better number than the June quarter, he said. However, until we know how the public health challenge posed by the virus will play out and how quickly and thoroughly it is resolved, it is almost impossible for economists to accurately predict when the crisis will end. Well, I think a lot is impossible for economists to accurately predict, and I will just bring up one little example here of our leading economists intervening and managing our economy like a finely tuned machine. Look at their stellar ability to predict wage price growth. Fantastic there. Get your HeiseSays mug today, guys. So, Frydenberg has warned the road out of recession for Australia will be hard and bumpy after the economy contracted by a record of 7% over the June quarter. These numbers are extremely sobering, Frydenberg told reporters in Canberra early September when the June numbers and recession was announced. So, essentially, the economists don't know when it will end. What do you think, everyone? When do you think the recession will end? Do you think we'll start to see, well, I'd say until all the support mechanisms are removed, until JobKeeper is completely gone, until the job seeker bonus is removed, until mortgage holidays are removed, until the trading while insolvent provisions are removed, until all of the government support mechanisms are removed. Only then can we say that the economy is truly recovering. Until all of these additional home builder schemes, grants and support for the property industry are removed. Then we'll have to start digging our way out of the hole that we're in. What do you think? You think that'll happen next quarter? As always, guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.